Before we dive into understanding how to fetch data from our API, we first need to cover a concept called convention over configuration. And what does that mean? So in a typical Redux application, it is all configuration. And so what this means is that if you want to interact with an endpoint and get a list of posts, you need to manually create a set of actions and reducers. And for a single resource like a post, this often means around 5 actions to create and get them and update them and destroy them, and then a set of reducers to store that data in your application. So you might need to store all of the posts or split them apart by a specific user or store them by ID. And then if you needed to interact with an additional endpoint, like the comments for the post, you create all of this code again. And so with this flow, this is all configuration. Everything is explicit and you have to create it. So there's no functionality that you don't create yourself. So how does Lore help? And what Lore does is it takes a concept that's been very successful in server-side frameworks called convention over configuration. And it looks like this. So let's say you want to interact with an endpoint that has a set of posts. In Lore, you don't create any actions or reducers to start with. You just create a model called a post. And this model starts off as empty, but it implies a lot of functionality. So just by creating this file, the framework implicitly provides all of the actions and reducers that you would have to create yourself. To access this functionality, there is a variable exposed in the global namespace called Lore. And in that, you can access different parts of the framework, but specifically for this example, this is where you would find your actions. And then attached to that is the name of the model. So in this case, it would be post, and then the list of actions that you want to invoke. So if you wanted to create a post, for example, you would call lore.actions.post.create and pass in the information you wanted to create for that post. And then the framework, through other sort of conventions and libraries that it has, will automatically translate that simple method call into a network request to create the post and pass your data along. And so for the rest of this section, we'll be using these conventions and learning sort of what they are and how powerful they can be and all of the functionality that Lore provides for you by default.